Do you ever go to a jam or a gig setting and something like this happens? Oh shoot, it's my turn to solo. I think I got this. Okay, I got this. Oh crap, where am I? Chromaticism. Oh, close one. I'm sure no one noticed that. Whoa, I don't know what I'm doing. Just pretend I'm doing substitutions. Yeah. D major stuff now. Yeah, I'm back in there. I forget how to get back into the head. Chromaticism. Is this familiar to you? Trust me, I know how this feels like yesterday. I didn't take jazz lessons till I was in college, but through the years, I've learned a lot that I want to share with you in this video. Nowadays, I sound more like this. So I just released a course with jazz lesson videos on how to learn jazz standards. In it, you'll find over 25 videos of various processes I go through to learn jazz standards. I'm super happy with how it came out, and if you want to purchase it, you can use this discount code here. The link to that is in the description below. So in celebration of that release, I'd like to use this video as an opportunity to share with you 6 personal tips from me that I've sort of cultivated throughout the years that I share with all my students. Now this type of topic is tricky because I have viewers of all levels. I have beginners, I have intermediate, I have advanced, I have players that play way better than I can and still watch anyway. So depending on your level, through these tips, some of it might be hard to absorb, some of it you might disagree with, some of it you might be like, oh wow, I never thought of that. Some of it just doesn't resonate at all, but then 2 years later, it might resonate completely. So I'm just gonna put all the information out here and let Astra do all the editing. So the first tip that I really want to share with you is to memorize the cycle of fourths, particularly ascending fourths. So what the cycle of fourths are is a way of organizing all 12 notes of the chromatic scale. You might also hear this as the circle of fourths. You might also hear it as the cycle or circle of fifths as well. All of it is exactly the same thing. I'm just going to say cycle of fourths, so we just have something consistent to say here. I'll show you in a second why it's called all of these things. But essentially, you take a note and then you go up a perfect fourth. And then you go up a perfect fourth again. And then you go up a perfect fourth again. And you go up a perfect fourth. And you go forever till after 12 notes you repeat back to where you started. And so that's why we call it a cycle or a circle, because it's infinite. Now if I were to start at, say, the lowest note on the saxophone, a B flat, and just keep ascending, you're going to notice you're going to run out of range really fast. So I'm already out of range. I now have to go to the altissimo register. So now I'm in altissimo D and I still have 3 more notes to go. So practicing it on your horn just ascending may not be possible if you're playing the saxophone. Or it is possible, but you have to play some crazy altissimo like. You don't want to do that. Or maybe you do. Anyway, how to fix this is at any point just go down an octave or go down several octaves. So. Etc. And you can actually do some pretty cool patterns. In undergrad, my friend showed me this one. You do 3 notes up, go down, 2 notes, go down, 3 notes up again, go down, and you get this. It sounds really cool fast. Etc, etc. So whenever we're labeling the distance between 2 notes with an interval, we compare what the lower interval is to what the higher interval is. So in that case, the lower note was my C, and then the higher note was my F. Da, da. So from C, if you think of the 4th note of C's major scale, it's going to be an F, and this interval is always a perfect 4th. You can also think of a perfect 4th as 5 chromatic steps up to the destination. So in this case, starting on C, I'm going to go up 5 chromatic notes. And there is a perfect 4th interval. So you can think of that from anywhere. So how about I start on an F sharp? So the perfect fourth of F sharp is a B natural. Now, if you were to take those two notes and switch them around, now we're going down a perfect fourth. So from F sharp to B, we're going up a perfect fourth, and then from B to F sharp, we're going down a perfect fourth. Because remember, we're always comparing it to the lower interval. Now, what would happen if we took that F sharp and put it up an octave? Now B is the lower interval, and so the placement of F sharp is no longer a perfect fourth. If you go from B and walk up to F sharp, now it's 7 chromatic steps. Perfect fourth interval is 5 chromatic steps. A perfect fifth interval is 7 chromatic steps. A perfect fifth interval is also the fifth note of a major scale. So if you were to play B major, there is your fifth note. This is also called the perfect fifth interval. So, this is perfect fifths, whereas putting the F sharp as the lower note, those are perfect fourths. So do you see how the exact same two notes, you get both of these? That's why it's called the cycle of fifths or the cycle of fourths. So if you look at the cycle in one direction, you'll see that it's going up fourths or down fifths. And if you look at it the other direction, you'll see that it's going up fifths and down fourths. That's why all of these names are exactly the same. In a circle, cycle, whatever, it's still infinite. Throughout my personal experience of jazz education, it seems that most institutions call it the cycle of fourths, and they think of it as going up in fourth intervals rather than down in fifth intervals. Anyway, so in this case, I'm just going to refer as going up fourths. So why is this useful to know? Is it just to show off your knowledge here? Like, oh yeah, look at my fourths. No. In the majority of all jazz standards, you're going to notice that the bass notes move in this perfect fourth progression. For example, as you know, the most typical chord progression in jazz is the 2-5-1. Those bass notes went up fourths. 3-6-2-5-1. 4th, 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 4th. Autumn leaves changes. See? Fourth, fourth, fourths. Now look at the next chord progression right after that. Fourths, fourths, fourths everywhere. Don't you see it? So when you know the circle of fourths by memory, because it's very inconvenient to keep pulling it up over and over, because this is going to serve you so much. It's just one of those things that will save you so much time if you just memorize the circle of fourths. Anytime you study a new tune and you see this pattern here, you're going to instantly be able to associate it with something that you already know. And it will be perceived as you learning tunes really fast. Wow, you're just a genius. You're so talented. Wow, you just learned so fast. No, it's actually, you're just connecting it with something that you've already internalized. And so you don't have to constantly start from square zero and memorize a whole nother alphabet over and over and over and over. Just relate it to something that you already know. We break down and analyze different root motions on standards in the course if you want to do that with me through enrolling in this new Jazz Standards video course. Cool, so that brings me to my second tip. Another concept worth learning that will be transferable instantly to every single future jazz standard that you're going to be learning will be practicing all of your chord qualities. So when you look at a chord, the letter by itself gives you the root, and then all the information after it gives you the chord quality. This lets you know, is the third major, is it flat, is the seventh major, blah, blah, blah. So if this is a brand new concept to you, I definitely recommend first just learning the three most basic ones. The major seven, the dominant seven, and the minor 7. So for the formula of each of these, the major 7 will be 1, 3, 5, 7. The dominant 7 will be 1, 3, 5 lowered 7th, aka flat 7th. And the minor 7 will be 1 flat 3, 5 flat 7. And all next to each other, it'll sound like this. Awesome. So if you can do that starting on any note of the chromatic scale, all 12 keys, you will already know how to arpeggiate at least 80% of all jazz standard progressions. Etc., etc. And then make sure you can do that in the dominant keys as well. And then make sure you can do it in the minor 7 keys as well. Etc., etc. So once you learn how to do this very efficiently, you'll be able to arpeggiate about 80% of all jazz chord progressions. But there are still some other important ones to learn. If you want to bump that 80% up to like 95%. The next 2 chords you want to learn is the half diminished, which is a 1 flat 3 flat 5 flat 7. And a fully diminished, which is a 1 flat 3 flat 5 and a double flatted 7th, or a major 6. So all 5 of these chord qualities next to each other excellent. So if you can do all 5 of these, you can tackle pretty much any jazz tune. Now here and there, you're still going to see other chords. Those other chords will consist of sus chords. That means you're going to take your 3rd and replace it with a 4th. So you might see a G7 sus. What that means is a G dominant 7 chord, but take your B and replace it with the C. So here's G dominant 7. Now G7 sus. Another chord structure you might see is a diminished major 7. This will be 1 flat 3 flat 5 major 7. You might also see an augmented major 7. This will be important later as you learn melodic minors and their diatonic 7s. 1 3 sharp 5 major 7. And you might see an augmented dominant 7. So it's the same thing but with a flatted 7. This is a good one to play over altered chords. And this one's very rare, but it's very applicable, which I'll show you in a second. The major 7 flat 5. It's exactly what it sounds like, a major 7, but the 5th will be flattened. So these are worth learning in all 12 keys and being able to navigate instantly. At least practice those first 5 and get them to a point where, just like you did in elementary school with your multiplication tables, right? When you learn 5 times 5, at some point you memorize that it was just 25, right? You don't have to do that. Okay, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, that's 2 5. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, that's 3 5. No, you're just like 5 times 5, 25. 4 times 4, 16. 2 plus 2, 4. 9 times 9, 81. 43 to the square root of 16. If you want to work on chord qualities over different standards with me, you can do that by enrolling in that course on Jazz Lesson Videos. And this brings me to my 3rd tip. Learn basic chord voicings for piano. You will notice that all of your favorite saxophone players can play a little bit of piano. And at the very least, they can access all of the harmonies that they're playing on piano. They can play all the chords in the harmonic chord progression. If you find me an amazing horn improviser that can't play any piano at all, I'll be extremely shocked. Now, as a horn player, if you haven't played piano, it can be a little bit scary to think of voicings, right? You might open a jazz book of piano voicing and you're like, oh, bass clef. So, as a horn player myself and a very amateur jazz pianist, I'm going to show you some voicings that you can practice now that are super easy to absorb, and it gives you some nice little rich harmonies that are a perfect starting point. And if you want to go beyond that, then hire a real jazz pianist teacher or buy a jazz piano voicing book. But let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about here. Okay, first and foremost, all of those chords I talked about in tip number 2, you want to be able to do them in just your right hand alone on the piano. And we're going to call this a grip because, you know, one hand can grip onto something. So that major 7, you want to be able to play it here on piano. I hope you love my very cheap piano that's over 20 years old. Okay, so an F major 7 grip, F minor 7 grip, E flat major 7 grip, a D major 7, C minor 7, C sharp diminished, B half diminished, A half diminished, G major 7, etc. You want to get to that point where all these are just automatic, just like your multiplication tables in elementary school. Now, with that said, if you want a shortcut to a nice rich harmony voicing for any chord that you see, check me out here. You can only access this if you first master these basics that I just showed you, being able to play your grips. So now, once that's easy, or if that's already easy for you, say you have a G major 7 chord. We're going to play with your left hand a G, and then on our right hand you're going to go to the major 3rd, and from there play the minor 7 grip. So in this case, the major 3rd of G is B, so I'm going to put my right thumb on B, and now I'm going to play a B minor 7. So this gives us a richer harmony. Now we have the 9th in our chord. So G major 7 becomes a beautiful G major 9 chord. And this works, of course, in all 12 keys. So if we have D, if I want a nice chord for D major 7, I'm going to go to that major 3rd, that F sharp, and then I'm going to play F sharp minor grip. Excellent. Now for dominant, I'm going to put my thumb on that 3rd again and turn this grip into a half diminished grip. Or I can put my thumb on the flat 7 and play a major 7 flat 5 grip. So now you're getting a dominant 13 chord. So you have your 3rds and 7s, and you have a 9 and a 13. Very beautiful. And then for minor chords, we're going to go to the minor 3rd and play a major 7 grip. So if I want to play a 2-5-1 in C, I'm going to go to D minor 7. I'm going to play an F major 7 grip. And now my thumb is conveniently on the flat 7 of G here for that G dominant 7. So I'm going to play that F major 7 flat 5 grip. And then when I get to C, my thumb is conveniently right next to the 3rd of C major 7. And what did I say for the major 7 chords? Go ahead and play a minor 7 grip from the 3rd. So all together, beautiful. For half diminished chords, you can go to the flat 5th and play a major 7 flat 5 grip. And you get a beautiful voicing for that. For dominant chords with the flat 9, flat 13, or just dominant altered, you can go to the flat 7 and play a half diminished grip. Or if you really want a nice sound in altered, go to the major 3rd and play the major 7 flat 5 grip. Now, of course, these voicings will work in all inversions. So I know this is a lot to memorize, and this will take some time to really not need a sheet or your note sheet to reference to anymore. But I promise, as a horn player that's a total noob at piano, I was so grateful when Gary Keller at Frost School of Music taught me this. And now I'm able to play chord progressions all on the piano. Excellent! And again, just like all the other tips so far, this is a fundamental, meaning the better you get at this, the instantly you can apply this to every single tune. And so if you can play a progression on piano using some knowledge of voicings, you'll be able to hear changes and familiar changes and start to connect the dots with this tune and be like, wow, oh, this is the same progression from this tune as this tune, and oh, it's all making sense. And it will be seen by an outsider that you are just some guy that can absorb and memorize progressions so fast. They're gonna be like, you're so talented. Wow, wow. You just learned so fast. But in all honesty, you've already practiced every tune in the world just by practicing this fundamental. So that's the illusion there. As horn players, it's great to understand how the piano works, but at the end of the day, we need to be able to play our horn like it's a piano. So if you want to practice cool ways to arpeggiate through standards, you can check that out in the Jazz Standards course. Anyway, now with that being said, now that you know how to play some degree of piano, while you go through the piano, or even just arpeggiating the chords, you want to start analyzing things through Roman numeral analysis. Now this is an extremely broad concept. So if I were to give you an entire Roman numeral analysis demo, this video is going to be 1,000 million minutes long. However, what I will do is go over things that will hopefully allow you to understand anything that you are to analyze that deals with Roman numerals. In our music, known as Western music, there are 7 letters in the musical alphabet, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There's no H or J or K, A, blah, blah, blah. And so because of that, there are 7 Roman numerals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We don't say 8 or 9 or 10 for a Roman numeral. Now this is very convenient because there can be a pattern such as a 2, 5, 1. And whatever key you're in, right? Say that 2 is an E. That 2, 5, 1, the intervallic content within these Roman numerals will be same despite what key you're in. So if D is 2, then your 5 is going to be G, and your 1 is going to be a C. If your 2 is a G, then your 5 is going to be a C, and your 1 is going to be an F. If your 2 is an A, then your 5 is going to be a D, and your 1 is going to be a G. And this is helpful as you connect the dots and start to see that all jazz tunes are more or less the same. And it's their slight differences that makes them unique, and then we put a name on it. As you get really familiar with practicing chord progressions, you'll be able to instantly identify, oh, wait, this is the same as this, just in another key. For example, in the first A section of All the Things You Are, you have a 6, 2, 5, 1, 4, and then you go up a half step and play a 2, 5, 1 in this new key. Then right after this measure, you have the exact same thing. 6, 2, 5, 1, 4, go up a half step, 2, 5, 1. So as you build your memory of chord progressions, you'll start to notice, oh, okay, this is just that, this is just that, this is just that. The Roman numerals are an excellent unifier. It keeps you from thinking of alphabet soup, like, okay, all the things you are, okay, D, the next note, I have practiced my flashcards, the next note is a G, okay, G minor 7, okay, the next note is a C, no, you just be like, oh, wait. 6, 2, 5, 1, 4. Okay, I practiced this in all 12 keys already. Okay, this song has it here. Oh, okay, goes up a half step from this root, plays a 2, 5, 1 here. Okay, oh, this is another 2, etc. You see what I mean? If you're trying to analyze a new tune by yourself, but you're getting stumped, you can go online and search the tune that you're studying and type harmonic analysis. And some guy in some forum, and probably the commenters arguing about who's right about what, will have talked about this tune that you're studying, and then it'll allow you to observe the patterns. And you're going to learn so much. There's something new to learn in just about every tune. And it's very exciting and it's very satisfying. And the more that you learn, the more you can apply it to everything else. And then pretty soon, you'll start to notice all these tunes are much more similar than different. Another thing to understand is that classical harmonic analysis is different than jazz harmonic analysis. They both use Roman numerals, but the use of the Arabic numerals after it are totally different. For example, in classical theory, you might see a 5-6 chord. This is not the same as a 5-6 chord in jazz theory. A C6 chord in classical theory actually means that you're playing a C triad starting on E, so it's the first inversion triad. But a C6 chord in jazz theory is a C major triad plus the major 6, so C, E, G, A. There's a lot of little discrepancies, so just be wary if you see something like that and you're starting to scratch your head, like, wait, why, what is going on here? And one more tip within this tip that I want to give you that might save a lot of time for you, because it sure saved a lot of time for me, is that a dominant chord does not always go to the conventional 1. And when this is happening, you might be actually borrowing a dominant chord from the melodic minor scale. And that is because we think of the 5-to-1 chord progression a lot, but something that's also pretty common is the 4 minor to 1 chord progression. And that might include borrowing a chord from your key's 4 minor. For example, in Cherokee, we have a 1 chord, and then a 2, 5, 1. And all of a sudden we have this flat 7 dominant chord, and then the chord right after it is back to the 1. What's going on here? Well, if you go back to this 4 chord here, this flat 7 dominant is actually that 4 now turned into a minor key, and we're borrowing the 4th chord of that 4 chords melodic minor scale. And then the next chord is a 1 chord. You can even superimpose a 4 minor 7 and then a flat 7 dominant 7 right before that 1 chord, and this gives you what we call a backdoor 2-5. And technically, if you wanted to, you could superimpose this and just stick this progression through any 2-5 that you want if you want to access like an alternate sound in that moment. So with this in mind, you might start seeing this in every tune. You're gonna be like, oh wait, this is in Stella as well? Oh wait, this is in Days of Wines and Roses as well? Oh, this is in After You've Gone? This is everywhere. If you'd like me to share several harmonic analyses over jazz standards, as well as various ways to simplify them even further, you can check that out in our new Jazz Standards course. Tip number 5 is singing the bass lines. Singing the bass lines is a lot harder than it seems. That's why when you're able to do it, you'll feel a lot more grounded and secure. Now, I've heard this philosophy before that you should be able to sing it before you play it. And while I get the well-intentioned, this has held me back for a long time. I think singing it is a sign that you have internalized it in the right way. But if you can't sing it and you're just not gonna play it, then you're just prolonging the process. If you can't sing it, you need to hear the notes. So, for example, in Cherokee, say something like this happens. You're trying to sing the bassline notes. 1, 2, ready, go. Da, do, do, dee, da. As you can see, using your voice is the hardest way to fake something. If you can't hear something in your head, it's going to be that much harder to recall it instantly. Your ears is the fastest method of recall. You can know all this theory stuff in the world, but nothing is going to be faster than just hearing it from your mind and then poof. And that's ultimately the point we want to get to with everything that we learn, whether it's jazz vocabulary or chord progressions, and in this case, the bass notes. And so for a long time, I thought that I am not allowed to play the notes until I can sing it. But how can you know what the note sounds like if you can't even hear it? You need an external source. So yeah, feel free to get that reference sheet out. Do, da, da, do, da, do, da, dee, da, hoo, da. And I promise you, there's something magical that happens when you're able to sing it, and then you start to worry about the chord qualities and all these other things. If you can at least sing the bass line first, it's like magic. Everything after it is so much easier. And it makes the internalization process just happen that much faster. In the recent course that I just released through Jazz Lesson Videos, I go even more in depth on this topic. And finally, tip number 6, patience, 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 patience. A lot of my audience and students are younger. And in this younger generation, thanks to TikTok and video games and all this stuff, like I get it, I'm part of it too, our attention spans are being conditioned to handle shorter things. But in things that require fluency and a very, very wide concept, progress is a lot slower than what we're used to. Through electronic technology, something is taken too slow, some guy usually invents a new technology that makes things faster and faster and faster. But with the brain, such technology doesn't exist. The way that the brain memorizes is the same as all of our ancestors before us. You're gonna forget and forget and forget until you just stop forgetting. When learning a brand new tune, in one session you might get to a point where you feel really good, and then the next practice session, it's like you didn't even practice anymore. And it can be really frustrating. You can feel like, oh no, I'm doing something wrong. But you just have to know that it's normal. When it comes to building long-term memory, it's not all about what all can you accomplish in this one session. It's about getting to a point in the practice session, and in the space of time in between your next practice session, you're going to forget a lot of that. And in your next practice session, you're going to try to recall it, and you're going to be like, darn it, what was this again? Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, this is familiar. And that is where the magic of long-term memory is. So we often think of memory as like a bank of knowledge, but the thing that we often overlook is the skill of recall. So practicing something day after day after day and really sticking to it till it really starts to feel fluent and just like second nature, that's really important before you move on. You're practicing the skill of recall, retrieving knowledge from your memory and being able to output it externally instantly. And that's the thing you want to measure. Don't get frustrated in your practice session like, I can't remember. You want to think instead, oh wow, it only took me 10 minutes to get back to that place I was yesterday, when yesterday it took me like an hour. And then the next day, oh wow, it only took me 2 minutes to get back to that place. And the next day, wow, it only took me 40 seconds. And the next day, wow, I was there right on the first rep. That is what you want to measure. You ever study for an exam the night before? And you do all these memory techniques for, like really quick memory. And you take that exam and you get an A. And trust me, I know this feeling. That's what I did for about all of my gen ed final exams during my undergrad. But the tragedy is the next day you don't think about it ever again. And then from then on, you forget all that information that you just pulled an all-nighter to study, and you forget it forever. Retrieval is a muscle that needs to be worked out. And the more that you retrieve, the longer it takes to forget something. So it is a good idea to practice maybe 1 or 2 tunes a week and really give it some serious work. And then after that week, go ahead and just revisit through time, because the length of time it takes to forget is longer and longer and longer and longer every time you revisit after a good amount of space. But, just really going ham and learning the tune for one day and then just not touching it for like a week, don't recommend that. It's frustrating, you're going to forget the tune. I definitely recommend like a week of very concentrated, focused, dedicated to that tune, and then recycle it naturally, like maybe calling that tune at the next week's jam, or call this other tune that you worked really hard on 3 weeks ago at your next gig. And so trust me, look, I know, I grew up in the digital age, trust me, my very first memory is playing Super Mario 64. I've tried every single way to cut corners and look for a shortcut, get this stuff faster. And then, some of the stuff really works for like a day. And then as soon as you stop doing it, it's just gone forever. And it's like you start from square zero, and it's the most frustrating thing ever. The slow path really is the best path. And I know it's annoying, you just want instant gratification now. But if it was that easy, it wouldn't be that special, right? You wouldn't want to go to Chris Potter's concert. I mean, think about it. We have arms and legs. It's probably the most significant thing in the universe. But because all of our friends also have arms and legs, we don't think that we're that special for having arms and legs. We think we're special for the things that we can't do, but they can. We're like, oh, how do you do that? So same philosophy applies here. If you go the slow but true road, when you get to the other side and you can sit on your throne, it makes you that much more proud of yourself. And then people start to ask you for lessons. The most valuable thing is time. And when you put time into the music, it gives back to you. If you enjoy various methods and strategies to learning jazz standards, my course showcases lots that will need a lot of time and patience to absorb and truly internalize, some of which I learned from my own mentors at the Frost School of Music. Alrighty! Well, that concludes tip number 6. I hope this was a helpful video, and thank you so much, Astrid, for editing this video. And thank you guys so much for 191,000 subscribers. Have a good day.